I guess what, for me, it's a personal thing for me because my mother, as a young girl, she grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and she was the oldest girl out of 16 kids in the family, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, her and my grandmother would go to many of the marches and the sermons that the Reverend would give there. And I look back kind of with a little bit of melancholy, but not anything that's like depressing. It's almost like a strengthening, you know, that, you know, a man like this existed.
We are where we are because of men like him. So we can never take that for granted or take our positions for granted because we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for men like Martin Luther King Jr.
Last year, we had Ryan Coogler, who was here with us, and the idea for MLK Now began with Ryan and began with Kareem Amir, this idea that we wanted to reclaim the more radical Dr. King, the Dr. King who stood for ending poverty, the Dr. King who called for the end of war.
Ryan Coogler, Ava DuVernay, and many others who aren't here, why don't we clap it up for them and just appreciate their vision.
I know that we like to kind of get caught up in the MLK nostalgia, but this is about the legacy of each and every one of us.
And I think if King was alive today, he wouldn't want us to just celebrate him. He would just say, do something for the causes that are important to me. Do something for hunger, do something for poverty, do something for anti-war, do something for race relations, do something for police brutality. These are all issues that are still ailing the world, and this is what he lived and he died about.
And I feel like in one regard, Dr. King would have definitely felt hope and felt hopeful. As much as Dr. King would feel a level of hope, I think there's a side of him that would be extremely upset. And I think he would voice it in a very boisterous and loud manner.
Let's do an energy check. I want to see how lit this room can get. Hit it. Where you at? Where you at over here? Stop here. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. What? Yeah.
We don't believe you, because we the people. So we in the rear, yo, we don't
believe you. Energy and with that heart, it is a pleasure to welcome into this historic, revolutionary, beautiful space in historic, revolutionary New York City, Reverend Amy Butler. Put those hands back together. Come on up, Reverend.
50 years ago, on April 4th, 1967, Dr. King stood right here, right in this very space, and delivered a historic speech called Beyond Vietnam, Breaking the Silence. He said things like he couldn't protest the oppression and the violence in the ghettos without talking about the greatest purveyor of violence that he knew, our own government.
And as a dark orange cloud descends on our nation, that darkness makes our light more visible. And so what you're hearing today won't just be from King himself. There will be artists, there will be columnists, there'll be a world-class athlete's words from across the political spectrum in many ways to try to cast that line out into the future and grab hold of the more perfect version of ourselves that we know we can be.
How amazing that we gather back in this place with the words and the presence and the witness of Dr. King in the very air around us.
There was a particular moment after the election that a number of us had decided we weren't going to do MLK Now again prior to that because we had worked so hard and we were had a tough year and we had said we were not going to do it. And then the election happened.
We're about to see a performance of Let America Be America Again.
Donald Trump, whose words are Make America Great Again, it's just, you know, it's kind of ironic.
Written by Langston Hughes, delivered by the one and only Q-Tip.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dreamer's dream. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. You know, a lot of the principles and ideas that Donald Trump ran on don't necessarily reflect the dream-deferred sentiment that Langston Hughes wrote in his piece. To me, his poem should be kind of a reference for all of us through the next 4 years to see how prophetic Langston Hughes probably will be. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, and yet must be the land where every man is free. Thank you.
This is that single black mother struggling to take care of her 5 black kids black. This is that single black father who questions why the world hates him black. This is that black child who the world has already given up on black. This is that real black. This is that native tongues black. This is that I don't know how to speak my own language black. This is that I ain't taking nothing from nobody black.
I think that one of the most beautiful things about Dr. King is that he really was such a poet.
He will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
And I think he's the most beautiful example how when you take art and you make it active and you take art and you apply your moral conscience to it, what you can do and the movements you can create.
In working on Selma with Ava, I learned a lot about him, a lot that I myself didn't know, about the sort of doubts and the fears that he had, the man who was a family man, also just the man, you know, the man who enjoyed being around his comrades. You know, there was some video that we got to see of him, you know, relaxed with his, you know, his shoes off and his feet up and, you know, eating lunch with his friends, and you see a totally different side of him. So I think there is a danger in sort of, you know, two-dimensionalizing him and his life, you know, and I think it's up to us to continue to sort of three-dimensionalize his experience.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
I'm sorry I can't be there with you today. I wish I could. I had to be out of town. But I greatly appreciate the invite, the opportunity to come, and would like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Martin Luther King for his lifetime commitment to civil rights activism. I'd also like us to take a moment and realize that the times today are not so different from the times then, and that it's our duty that all of us build with each other, fight with each other, and make sure that we're working together to create a better future for our people.
We are now about to hear from the voice of Muhammad Ali as he expressed anti-war sentiments at Howard University. Our presenter is a New York Times best-selling author, a television actress and producer. Please warm your hands for Lala Anthony.
So I'm here, I'm gonna recite Muhammad Ali's speech about anti-war, and it was powerful to me. One, because I love Muhammad Ali. Two, the message, it just rings so true today. I was just at the White House for President Obama's final party and Michelle Obama's final speech. It was very emotional, very powerful, and I just feel like the country is so divided and all over the place. So hearing Muhammad Ali's words from then and it being so true now, it just gives me chills. It's so crazy. So I'm excited to recite the speech. Hope I don't mess up.
First of all, I would like to thank the student governing body for inviting me here to speak at this beautiful and worthy occasion tonight. And I would also like to congratulate them on their great, splendid stand to stop the bloody war that is now going on in Vietnam. And as a Muslim minister, my own outlook on war and violence is well known by now. And I would like to say that the #1 greeting in my faith is peace, and that is Assalamu alaikum, which means may peace be unto you. There have been many questions put to me on why I refuse to be inducted into the United States Army, especially as some have pointed out, many have pointed out, when not taking the step I will lose so much. I would like to say to those of the press and those of the people who think that I lost so much by not taking a step, I would like to say that I did not lose a thing up until this very moment. I haven't lost one thing. I have gained a lot.
Well, he's my husband's everything and idol. Yeah, if you come in my house, there's Muhammad Ali pictures everywhere. It's always been like that. So, and again, another man who wasn't afraid to speak up for what he believed in, even if it didn't go with what everyone else thought was right. And you have to respect that. People that are just able to use their voice and not just go with what people consider the norm and go with what they believe in. It takes a very powerful person to do that, so we can learn a lot from him.
If I thought the war was going to bring freedom and equality to 22 million of my people, then they wouldn't have to draft me, because I would join tomorrow. I have nothing to lose by standing up for my beliefs, so I'll go to jail. So what? We've been in jail for 400 years. Thank you very much.
One of the finest writers we have working and alive today is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And reading from her work, We Should All Be Feminists, is actor Omari Hardwick.
Rest in peace, Dr. King. Rest in purpose, Dr. King. Rest in power, Dr. King. It would be a way of denying that the problem of gender targets women. That the problem was not about being human, but specifically about being a female human. The reason we're all here. For centuries, the world divided human beings into two groups, two categories, then proceeded to exclude and oppress one group, one category. It is only fair that the solution to the problem acknowledge that. Some men feel threatened by the ideal of feminism. I, for one, am not so foolish. You know, the senior minister of this incredible facility, this church, she was in front of me. It was very, it felt like an anointing to be sat behind her, and she, especially doing the piece that I did about we all needing to be feminists, and she quietly said to me, I said to her, the spirit is in here and it's nice, and she said, I feel hope. I have a song that comes out Wednesday called Bloodshed.
Oh, my bloodshed. There is peace in the cross from the blood that was lost.
And really, the hook is no more bloodshed, you know. Josiah Bell and I did it.
This ain't just about blacks killing blacks. That would be like doing 3/5 of this track, and why would I do that?
It's really about it being too much bloodshed on this earth, and so Dr. King would be a little baffled that you can't even go to Fort Lauderdale Airport anymore and collect your bags without looking over your shoulder for a gunshot. It's a tough environment we live in, but I definitely think that he would still have the glass half full optimism of there's still hope.
My own definition of feminist is this: a man or a woman who says, yes, there's a problem with gender, as it is today, and we must fix that problem. We must do better. And by this definition, yes, we should all be feminists. I'll say it again. As a man, we should all be feminists. Thank you.
Black excellence today, black excellence. This is a song that was on Brandy's CD, Never Say Never. I wrote it 20 years ago and felt that this time was even more needed for this message of hope and unity.
It's beautiful inside. There's so much energy and there is actually so much abundant hope in that room. I think that everyone's spirit is focused on their mission.
I had a dream, a crazy vision.
We can sit in our corners, mute forever, while our sisters and ourselves are wasted, while our children are distorted and destroyed, while our earth is poisoned.
The political philosophy of black nationalism only means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. The time when white people can come into our community and get us to vote for them so that they can be our political leaders and tell us what to do and what not to do is long gone.
And while we wait in silence for that final luxury of fearlessness, the weight of that silence will choke us.
I really do feel like these are exciting times. To think otherwise is a setup.
It is more important than ever that each person in this room is media literate.
I was honored to be asked to co-moderate a panel with Pastor Mike, who I've been fortunate enough to share space with before. You know, I'm one of a handful of young women that I think is very fortunate to have been able to carve a space for myself in a lane, and also to step into spaces where you don't always get young, radical female voices showing up.
Regardless of how you feel about either party, most of us would agree that the things about candidate B that were damning about her and her campaign did not pose a threat to our livelihood and our existence and our humanity, when someone else was every day basically saying, you don't have to write bad things about me, I'm gonna tweet them myself. And yet, if it bleeds, it leads, as they say in our business. He bled. And a lot of us are gonna bleed as a result.
And to share some of the magic and the words of Michelle Obama is actress, director, producer, and activist Olivia Wilde.
The fact is, in this election, we have a candidate for President of the United States who, over the course of his lifetime and the course of this campaign, has said things about women that are so shocking, so demeaning, that I simply will not repeat them here today. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior, and actually bragging about kissing and groping women, using language so obscene that many of us were worried about our children hearing it when we turned on the television. And we can't just sit around wringing our hands. Now we need to recover from our shock and depression and do what women have always done in this country. We need you to roll up your sleeves. We need to get to work. Because remember this, when they go low, we go high. Yes, we do. Of course, things didn't work out the way Michelle wanted, the way many of us did. But I got the opportunity recently to meet our First Lady and thank her for her service and tell her how proud I was, how she made me feel proud to be a woman and an American. And I started to cry like I'm doing now. And she said, "Stop, we have work to do." So I'm ready to work with all of you. Thank you.
We have quite a treat. All of the performers today are quite a treat. This is a unique twist on that. We have a man who played the part of Dr. King, reading the words of a poet about the American dream and the American Negro. I refer to David Oyelowo reading James Baldwin on a day about Dr. King. It's like a Russian doll type situation.
One of the things the white world does not know, but I think I know, is that black people are just like everybody else. We are also mercenaries, dictators, murderers, liars. We are human too. Until the moment comes when we, the Americans, are able to accept the fact that my ancestors are both black and white, that on this continent we are trying to forge a new identity, that we need each other. I am one of the people who built the country. Until this moment comes, there is scarcely any hope for the American dream.
Still waters run very deep, you know, that is an adequate adage. His flesh long gone does not mean that he is not represented more in presence than he ever has been before, you know. I mean, he was present in the 60s, and he's equally present now in 2017. He was as powerful as they come, as was Malcolm. We had some incredible leaders during that time, and so we're blessed to have known about it, if not directly through our grandparents and through our parents.
You know, one of my favorite King-isms, if you will, his words on the white moderate. That's something I think about often. So it's one thing to see the Ku Klux Klan as a threat. It's one thing to see violent police officers as a threat. People that'll call you the N-word, say they don't believe in integration, they don't want to live amongst you, and they will do you harm if they have the opportunity to do it. And then you have the people that say, I mean, it kind of seems like you all have everything you need, because you had a black president, and you have Jay-Z and Beyonce, and you have Puffy Combs and the TV network, and people who just believe that everything is fine and can point to black achievement, you know, to substantiate that. Those folks are more dangerous to us than the ones that are unabashed and unapologetic about how they feel. I think that this event will allow people to leave here energized, excited, passionate, recommitted to activist work, or willing to get into it for the first time. And I think that's a good thing.
Today is a day to look within yourself and say, if this should be my last day, as it was for King's when he was still in his 30s, will I be proud of what I've done? What legacy have I left? Whose life have I helped make better?
So the challenge for each and every one of you is, how do you get more out of your comfort zones once you get out of your seats? And what are you going to do more today than you did yesterday in this fight for social justice?
But use this energy and use that to get back into the community and do something, especially with an unforeseen atmosphere that we're going to have in this next political era. Who are we? What are we doing? What lives are we trying to improve? That's a legacy. And I think that's what King's legacy was, and I think that's what he would want us to do today.
You have to rely on your true instinct and your spirit, and on your intuition and your feeling. And I think intuition, spirit, and feeling is something that black people thrive on. That's why we've survived here for so long. It's a feeling, it's about faith. And I think that those things are like the nucleus of black excellence.
No more running from helicopters. No more running from helicopters. No more running from helicopters.